Hey, everybody, this is Perch. I think the role of the editor has gotten both misunderstood and beaten up a lot. The reality is, editorial and editors, good editors, are in a lot of ways worth their weight in gold if they're good. And there's an if, right? But a good editor can steer the line, can get projects on the right track, can keep the story being consistent, can provide that continuity. A million things. A good editor can hide and make up for a ton of things that the writer, either doesn't care about or doesn't do, or the publisher themselves screws up. So comics being kind of an odd little business, there's a whole world where the publisher itself is inconsistent with their strategy, with how books are being published. You have an ongoing series and a relaunch, the mini series, and something happened over here. And all that stuff are obstacles. They're bad. A really good editor can wind up making up for most of that. If you just have somebody who's keeping some consistency, holding the line on quality, all these different things, they can hide, mask, or avoid a ton of sins. An editor is critical to the book. Like if you get a high end, like if Art Adams is going to come back and do a monthly book for a year, yeah, Art Adams is going to be more valuable to you as a company than an editor. But it's not a if this then that kind of world. It's an and, not an or. Editors are super, super valuable. The challenge is two things are going on. One, I'll be very nice about, one less nice. The nice thing to do is that editorial is stretched extremely thin. At the publishers, you have editors managing way too many books. And you do have very inconsistent instructions. Friends with several editors will reach out and talk about how they are almost kind of beaten into submission, which I don't agree with, by the way. If you're hired to do a job, you're taking a check, you need to do that job to the best of your ability, even if it sucks, go find a new job. I understand it's easy to say, less easy to do. But, editors are given random direction from the editor-in-chief and from the publisher all the time. It is a schizophrenic job a lot. And so that doesn't make your job easier. And if you're on too many books and you're stretched too thin, that's also a huge problem. So that's the nice part. The other part, the part that's less nice, is the reality is editorial. And, my theory here is that it's just a low-paying job and too much of the hiring is done through kind of network friends as opposed to qualifications. A lot of the editors are thoroughly, not capable of doing their job. Thoroughly. They do not have the skills. They do not have the understanding of the business. They do not have basic project organization status. And they seem more interested in, chatting it up and talking about kind of, what the fact they got this dream job on Twitter versus actually doing the dream job. And so a lot of the people we have in this role suck. I'm sure, which came first, the chicken and the egg? Were they great and then they got kind of beaten into submission and worked too hard and now they just don't care anymore? Or were they always that way? I don't know, maybe a little bit of both. It doesn't really matter. The job of the editor is really important, and it's a job that's failing today. So we got this mail about editors. It says, let's get this out. Sorry. Hey, Perch von Perchington. Okay. I love that. So Perch P. Perchington, the gag there, where that all came from, if you're newer to the channel, is that I got spam messages from somebody. It was one of those like, hey, we've been spying on your computer and, you need to pay us some Bitcoin or we're going to release these pictures of you frantically masturbating out into the world. The joke's on them. I masturbate to my tablet device, not my laptop. That's just weird. You don't want the keyboard to get all sticky. Anyway, regardless, they opened the mail, Perch P. Perchington, which I just found quite amusing and funny, and I love that it stuck. Not like the keyboard. Anyway, it says, back to the mail. It says, let's get this out of the way. Love the channel and sorry to see it's ending. Why don't we just keep it going? Anyway, even more sorry that I waited till basically it was over to write emails. While I'm a few years older, we have a similar affection from the years of comics yore, like Simonson's Thor, Byrne Claremont X-Men, Miller's Daredevil, Burns Fantastic Four, blah, blah, blah. I don't always agree on your takes, but I respect and enjoy some of the inside baseball you bring. Yeah, of course. By the way, I appreciate the thoughtfulness, kindness, and politeness of people who say, I don't always agree with your takes. I'll give you some politeness back. I don't expect you to. In fact, I hope you don't. I have a better comfort in the world if basically we all like different things. I feel more comfortable with the idea that we like different things than this idea that we're all liking the same thing. I don't know why. Maybe it's the Gen X in me. I don't like this concept of, I give you a take, you have to accept it. There are absolutely other YouTube channels and, plenty of jerks out there who are going to basically throw, little internet tantrums if you don't agree with their takes wholeheartedly. And you see their little legion of lackeys, sucking on that pipe. But no, you don't agree with me. God, well, that sounds horrible. Like, have different opinions. It's better. It's always better. Better if we have different ways of looking at the world. Who wants a bunch of clones? Anyway, I'm just saying. Individuality. If you're in Gen X, individuality was a big deal. Like, you wanted that. And that's maybe one of the reasons why Gen X has such disdain for our current generation, which seems to want the exact opposite. We must all conform. Anyway. All right, there we go. Well, a lot of people point to the lack of high-profile talent working the big two as in a capacity beyond variant covers. True. I think the lack of qualified editors is almost a bigger problem. I probably would agree. You could talk me into that. We have a host of underpaid people with a lack of comic book historical knowledge deciding the direction for the books we used to love. You get what you pay for. Maybe this is where the focus should be if these companies are really serious about comics regaining some of their past glory in regards to stories as well as sales. Do the companies care? Hard to tell sometimes as they, mostly Marvel these days, continue to give us books and creative teams no one is clamoring for. What if Mark Waid was a line editor, or Kurt Busiek, or Louis Simonson? Creators have a history of, I said that really weird. It's because it's written. And if creators have a history of some memorable work, as well as an almost Rain Man-like knowledge of that history. Sure, these guys won't come cheap, but would the cost be worth it? You might be surprised how cheap some of these people come, by the way. I think for some of these creators, particularly ones who are older and do not have steady work, the idea of like, hey, how about we give you benefits and a salary? I don't know. It might be more appealing than you think. Anyway, I think we are all feeling the pain of having some bozo who takes a mid-paying editorial job because he loved blankets as a pretentious high school senior, but really feels superheroes are a bit cringe. Funny you should say that. I was talking to an editor who popped that exact line out. Like, don't you think superheroes are just kind of cringe? Like, I understand. This was almost verbatim the line. I understand a lot of our audience is like 40, 50, 60-year-old men. Don't you think it's really cringe that these grown men are into superheroes like the tights and the capes? Gross. Okay, so number one, most of the characters there are not a lot of capes. There are some, but not that many. Not as many as you think. Capes, there's more characters without capes than capes. Got to give Captain Marvel a cape. Anyway. But also, like, I don't know, what a gross attitude for somebody as an editor of the big two. I don't have all the answers. I may have none of the answers, whatever. I just love comics, feel sad that I no longer make it a priority to hit comic shops every Wednesday. But when I do, I typically walk out empty-handed. Thanks for taking the time. Hope to be a person in con one day. I will buy you a beer and tell you when I met a young SCAD kid named Sean Murphy who wanted to do comics for a living. Nice. Whatever became him. But gay characters in Zorro, apparently. I'm just kidding. Wish other people were. Anyway, look, editors are a big problem. It's a balance. I mean, if you put in good editors, but you didn't bring in good talent, you still got an issue. But man, you gotta distribute that money around. And if you had people who care about the comics, like I said, they can mask a ton of problems. And the challenge I think we have with a lot of American comics right now, and particularly the big two and mainstream, is the editorial job is kind of a pencil pusher of just trying to coordinate emails and is doing very little of what the editors in the, in 80s did. A lot of people talk about the creative team changes and how art's changed, how writing's changed, and kind of all this other stuff. And it's true that has changed and has been a big impact. But the editorial change, I think, is the bigger headline in a lot of ways. The the editor, the job of the editor, and you've heard some, Glenn Greenwald, you've heard some Greenberg. What am I saying? Jesus, it's late and I'm tired and I haven't started drinking yet. But anyway, you've heard a bunch of editors on this channel. There's some really amazing interviews from people who are editors during that line, and you just listen to what they did in their job. That's not the job today of an editor. That's not what they do. There is a major difference in what the day-to-day tasks and responsibilities are of editors, and so is it any wonder things are slipping through the cracks? It's not. So I think comic publishers, if you want to be serious about it, you need to get some good editors. And, some of the names you mentioned, I mean, sure, Mark Waid has a amazing encyclopedic knowledge of a lot of the history. In theory, he'd be good, but I don't know. I would, if I was running a publisher right now, I'd be hiring a lot of people from outside the quote unquote industry, because I do think there's this institutional knowledge and this fear of doing things different that is paralyzing for people. And comics needs disruption. It needs people who are going to think a little bit differently. And so continuing to chase the same kind of rabbit down the hole is just a bad idea. Anyway, I think editors, very important. I think it's a big problem today. Is it the absolute most important problem in comics? Probably not, in my opinion, but it's pretty damn high up there. If you just kind of close your eyes and picture a world where only one thing changes, and what changed is the editors were, really solid, good, hardworking people, caring about the line, really pushing quality, all those things. If you think about a world where that's where we're living, how different would that look? Potentially very different. And you also wonder how much, would good talent, what would do that do the talent? If suddenly you had, an editorial group who, he was really a stickler for quality and demanded good results, there would be a creator shuffle. Some creators would not make it under that system, and others would come in because, the ability for the story to be told properly would raise. I don't know. Potentially that would be a major factor in things getting better. So what do you think? Let me know in the comments below. Like and subscribe, of course. 100 years, Perch and Joe. 100 years to adventures of Perch and Joe. Up forever. Perch and Joe, 100 years. 100 years. Thanks for listening.